Welcome, everybody, to another installment of a talk with the elementals. Today, we came up here on Thumb Butte again, out further into the wilderness, to film this. So, hopefully, people can hear me over this wind. So, today, we're bringing through a different group altogether, a type of elemental, from what I can see. Somebody who came through on a read earlier this morning. These type of elementals look like something out of, I would say, like medieval fantasy or like Lord of the Rings sort of type of elemental. They look like Treebeard. So these particular types are not seen all that often. And if they are, people just think they're trees. And other elementals also take the forms of trees too, but these literally look like them. So we'll see who comes through here out of this group. Okay, one that I happen to know from someone's read. He calls himself Ray. We know that's a pseudonym, but that's what he calls himself. Let me see here. If he wants to come through right away? Okay. So I'm hoping this wind doesn't blot out the sound. So I'll get a little closer when I do this. Give me a moment. Greetings. This one knows me as Ray. I am what you would call a tree elemental. Not necessarily fae folk, as you would know them to be, although that name has been attributed to my kind in the past. We do resemble trees and plants, covered in leaves and what you would perceive as hair, but it's actually plant material. It would be like a beard. Interestingly enough, my kind were once giant kind on the world of Maldek. We were a type of giant, and still are, that resembled trees. We are of House E and M. We are resembling that of the Viking Norse giants, but in a tree form. We sometimes guide people into nature to see our kingdom. Sometimes we even resemble ourselves sitting on a throne, a good one. Some people see us as wrapped in vines, while other people see us as branches and sticks and leaves with a beard of ferns. My kind has been here since the beginning of your world and existed long before. We now aid those wishing to commune with nature. We guard the realms of nature in areas where the realms of other dimensions and worlds have intersected and collided with nature on your own world, such as the devices known as cauldron and various other pieces of technology and other energetic forms that do not belong here. You can think of us as more of nature's security force or police force in our own right. Many other species claim that title as well, but we can, as you say, legitly say this. My kind on Maldek existed in the ancient forests and in the ancient wooded areas of that world and on the world of magic. We guarded the doors in between spaces, as we've said. When Maldek was no more, we gravitated mainly to Earth to watch the digression of the human race. In this, we have waited for a moment to be able to communicate again. Your kind has indeed communicated with my kind over the centuries, but have perceived us in ill forms, such as demons and the like. However, we seek to reteach humans what they have lost. In this, I and all of my kind bid you welcome to our wooded areas and our forests. We do approach you on farmlands and areas where crops form and animals live. When we do this, we are wishing to be involved in that process. Most people do not see us, they sense us. This one sees us, as do several others. However, humans would hear us before they would see us. As I've stated, we protect now the forests and nature and farmlands and animals from incoming threats. And there are a few that I will not go into. Blessings from all of our kind to yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. So, as always, I'm going to ask a couple questions if you don't mind. So, you said, because I actually have never met your kind before, or I should say currently, I probably have known you in the past. But so I'm just really curious. So you mentioned Maldek and you mentioned Earth. Does that mean that your species were on all of the planets here at the same time?
No, we were merely on Maldek and its moon constructs and Earth.
And Earth. Okay. But at the same time, so you had were working with the nature code on both places at the same time. It wasn't like some species where they maybe originally were Maldek and then when Maldek exploded they came to Earth. Were you on both at the same time?
Yes, we were on both at the same time. Some of our kind became what you know of as the screaming souls of Maldek. Other ones helped them reintegrate into the Earth grid. With us, we have what you humans would call as a quantum entanglement between the energy of Maldek and the energy of Earth. So there was always a fragment of a what you would call dead world left behind in energetic form. That energetic form still speaks to us now and to humans now. This is why people feel this planet is Nibiru and is still coming. But it is not Nibiru. It was destroyed by the forces of Nibiru. This quantum entanglement can be utilized to humans' advantage as well as our own by bringing in these energies of the lost world of Maldek to your own and filling any missing spaces on your world, you would say, energetically. People tap into this energy force quite often and do not realize what it is and what it is becoming. It is aiding in what you would call the earth shift.
So when you say bring the energy in, is it like trying to remember the wonder of it all, the beauty of Maldek, the beauty of the world of magic, instead of focusing on the negative, trying to, remember what it was like before that? So I'm just curious what you mean by that.
Yes, it holds the energy and the togetherness and oneness that Maldek was prior to its explosion, and also prior to Earth being split up by the harvester spheres in antiquity. This energy is what will aid recreating your world to come.
So, okay. So, again, just for the people listening, how to do that. So, when you say that to me, what happens is that my imagination takes over. And, I guess for some people, it really is. Think about going back to childhood, where you kind of create a magical world with the trees that you feel you can sing with and talk with, or the flowers or the plants, because that's actually more of how it was, correct?
Yes, and they still sing to you even now. Humans have gotten to the point where they have lost this ability, or so they think, to hear the singing trees and the singing flowers, but they have always nonstop, constantly done so in order to free all of you from this oppressive force that destroyed Maldek. We are not saying in a savior fashion, just more of a lighting a fire under you sort of fashion, or pilot light.
So I'm going to share something that I would do. And I only share it with you because, again, I think people don't realize what they can do that doesn't require a lot of energy. So when I was in North Carolina and I was still working and I had to travel quite a bit, when I really started to bring nature back, and first of it is just noticing and looking around and looking at the flowers and just noticing. Again, sometimes people would call all these weeds, but really when you look at them, they had beautiful little flowers on them. So I started noticing when I would drive down the interstate, I really started to pay attention to what was around me. Now in North Carolina, there's a lot of trees and greenery that's around. And then I would actually use my imagination and I would start, talking to them or saying hello or saying something. And then something happened and it made me pause. Is this actually real or not? When there became a moment when I would start to interact with things just driving down the interstate and the trees would start moving. And then I realized the trees weren't all moving. The trees in front of me that I was talking to were moving, almost like a parade route where people were there and they see your float coming and they're waving back at you. That's where, I've been trying to say to people, you wouldn't believe when you really start to pay attention and you really start to connect and interact that nature interacts back with you. So I was hoping you could comment on that because I really want to encourage people to do this and to teach their children to just interact in that way.
Yes, what you were seeing was one of our kind waving back at you. You say you've never met our kind, but you do quite often. Granted, the dryadic consciousness makes up for a lot of the energies going through trees, but every now and again, it is one of our people that is mixed in with the tree kind. Also, you speak of weeds, which your humankind has dubbed unhealthy or undesirable plant material. However, this is a psyops, you would call it. These plants are necessary for the growth of nature. You recognize this beauty right off the bat, you would say, but these plants actually hold in them an allergen that the spindlies, you would call them, cannot stand. This is why they developed poisons to kill these particular plant types. There is no such thing as a weed, just different plant types with different capabilities and different abilities, you would say. Some that you would regard as poisonous, for instance, may be poisonous to your kind, but it is also because you share DNA with these spindly beings and have since antiquity, such as ancient Egypt and Atlantis. In this is why people have allergies to plants, because the spindly or harvesters have integrated some of their DNA codes into humankind. Therefore, humans inherited some of their allergy to your world. This is why the spindlies do not walk on the surface of your world, but control other humans to do their bidding. This is a fact people have negated or not seen.
That's very interesting. I did not know that at all. So again, you know, I know a lot of the listeners who listen to us, all the time have heard this before, but really just look. And when some of the little teeny flowers on some of the things that people call weeds look just like orchids. I mean, they're beautiful if you really take the time to really look at them. So I just encourage people, and I really encourage you to talk to your children. Children naturally oftentimes talk to flowers and everything. They're already bonded. Just work on keeping that bond up. I am curious because you did mention the fact that people often thought of you as demons. So my curiosity is, did some of your race suffer what's happened to other races where some of your race did experience darkness, or they are experiencing darkness, or is it just a misperception of humans?
They did indeed experience darkness. Those souls were harnessed by the harvesters to do their bidding. Therefore, they actually came across as demonic, as did some of the nicer of my kind, through what we said previously, cauldrons from the world of Nibiru, you would call it. The nature code from there, or what was left of it, were the demonic of our kind. Those have since been mostly eradicated, but there are several on your world still scattered across the face of your world that cause mischief. This is not the only mischief maker types. However, there are gnome types that are mischief makers. There are Grimpaw types that are mischief makers. This does not make them evil. This makes them mischievous, as well as other fey kind and fairy kind. This does not make them evil. However, the ones that I aforementioned, the ones aligned with darkness, those were evil of my kind, from an opposite universe, you would call it in your sci-fi terms. When children, I wish to say, bring parents flowers that parents consider weeds, like dandelions, like other flowers like milkweeds and the like, that the parents find allergenic, the children are actually speaking on some level to us, and they are bringing that gift to their parents, who do not understand, because adult kind has since forgotten our presence on your world.
Well, thank you. I appreciate hearing all of that. I'm also curious, since you mentioned that you stand as kind of, again, you've got House M and you, kind of a warrior side, the protector side. What I'm curious about now is what is there a specific duty now? I understand that Sophia is back as the celestial uh, consciousness for Earth. We know we're seeing these energetic and Earth changes going on. So I'm just curious if you can explain kind of what you guys are up to now, and uh, is there any particular duties that you specifically have been assigned to now during these changes?
Yes, we can honestly say that we are helping dear Sophia, the true House E consciousness, back into the fold. In this, we have helped regulate her back into her celestial form, or body form, you would say. Humans would say celestial form, body. In this, we have helped her energy regulate back into what Tiamat had been occupying. In this does not mean that this other fragment of Tiamat was bad. Quite the opposite. In this, in your history, you see battles between elemental types. In your Lemurian history, the legends of Pele would be what you perceive as the Earth Mother. Yet, pieces of her occupied many different fractals across space and time. In this, many people were born, incarnated, with a piece of Pele. However, there was a consciousness, a third one, that you did not know about, that was from a future time that lit the fires, as you would say, to expedite that last fragment of Tiamat and integrate Sophia. That was the third component in this. She was the Pele consciousness who came into the earth plane to delegate this particular energy. She was an individual from a future time frame, very much like your Germain. In this, she came back and occupied parts of the earth as an earth mother as well. People never know of the third component. This is why this one was confused as to why only two fractals came into being. And this one saw many others that seemed out of place. I can say now, the Pele consciousness was the third component, emanating from ancient Lemuria. Then she paved the way through many incarnations for Sophia to take up her rightful mantle and Tiamat to take over another world.
So that's very interesting because it goes in line with something that Chris and I, I guess when we do talk on galactic history, we'll be talking about this, but it's really hard for, I think, everyone to comprehend that, you have to understand that everything is in the now. That's one concept. Everything is in the now. And that certain experiences are supposed to occur to give a well rounded understanding. And so it seems that in this particular experience where we're supposed to come out of darkness and go into light, not repeat darkness going down the toilet again, basically, that to ensure that happened, that multiple entities from the future came in as an assurance to try to make sure that that continued the path that it was supposed to continue. So it sounds like that Pele was one of those, of many, it sounds like to me. But is that correct? Am I understanding this correctly?
Most certainly, you are correct. It was a war in time, so therefore, to balance out the dark overage, a light force, as you would say, had to come in to balance the scales. Yet, they did not understand that they too became entangled in this war of attrition over time. But to start with, their job was sound because of the fact they were preventing these fractals from bad timelines to interfere with the flow of what you would call history. This history that humans revere, both of nature and their own history, is flawed because of these time fractals, because of this war of attrition, because of both sides, not just the bad side. Sometimes the good side made it worse out of good intention. In this, to start with, the job that was entrusted to them was to keep the peace and to fill in the missing spaces of time, you would say, with light for everyone's highest good. However, the dark entanglements sent a lot of them astray, and they went on, as you would say, hero's quests to, as you would point out, destroy the enemy. But in this quest, they were falling further into dark times. This created a more entangled knot. Now, a different way of being had to be created, not a militaristic one where you would go back in time and correct the temporal flaws of the war of attrition. No. In this, the vibration had to change. Hence, going from a world of the sword to the world of magic. This is what will untangle this knot of entanglements this world has gotten into. This is how to fix this.
Yes, thank you, because it kind of reiterates some of the things that we've talked about, and it's such a hard concept, I think, for people in general to literally, I call it the knapsack, carrying the knapsack of the wanting to fight, the who's right, the who's wrong, and all that, and literally just deciding I'm done with it and put down the knapsack, turn off the TV, and then just listen to your heart and start doing things that bring you joy. And as simple as that sounds, the energetic change that goes along with that is what really brings in and starts to change everything around us. Just stop the involvement of that type of interaction. I don't, that's my understanding of what you've just said.
Yes, the beings that came in from a future time continuum to come back to try to fix the wrongs did eventually become wrong themselves. This was no complete fault of their own. But when they followed their mission directive so closely, it gave a wedge for darkness to push in between and create a chasm. In this, it widened that gap so that ego was the thing in control and not their core directive. If some of them had listened to their core directive, they would know it had to adapt and change as the situation had to adapt and change. We are not saying get rid of the warrior. We are just saying transmute it to the world of magic. We are not saying do not defend or fight in some respects. We do this often. We are just saying the warrior must be transmuted to bring back and restore the world of magic as intended by the forebears who created this mission directive.
Thank you. So I'm just going to change the subject a little because everyone's always interested in that. So I'm be interested to hear your comment. We're coming up on the summer solstice, just a day or so away from 2018 summer solstice. So people are always concerned about the earth. They're very concerned about potential bad weather, bad earth moves, earthquakes, this, that, and the other. So I am just curious if you have any comments, or you can give people an understanding of what it could be expected, or as now Sophia has, gotten back into her celestial body, and what's going to be happening. What can people look for?
People expect there to be earthquakes and cataclysms and all things dark. Unfortunately, I must say, this is a psyops. Also, human co-creation plays a part in this, since the beings creating this psyops cannot enact a lot of these plans themselves. As for earthquakes, you know this as the war in Agartha. However, there are other earth changes that people should be made aware of in recent months, years to come. The shift, as people have dubbed it, is not all it appears to be. People see changes in, say, mountain faces, in building faces, in structures, in plants, and all that which they thought was real. However, there is some holographic trickery going on currently in association with what you know of as the Mandela effect, where the timelines are folding into a singular output, you would say. In this, the holographic reintegration, as you know it as, has gone awry. And that system that was once created to utilize the holographic reintegration so people did not see certain cataclysmic viewpoints of the timelines interfolding and people disappearing and the like, is failing. In this, it is the new energies that are causing this system to fail. The system, though, was good in the day that it was created over 1,000 years ago, is failing. This will cause certain illusions to appear. This is not just the binary network trickery of holograms. This is an Agarthan network trickery of holograms. This is not something my kind approves of currently. So therefore, we report on this. In this, you will see rock faces change, buildings change, because there is a holographic blur, you would say, between the stage and the backstage. In all actuality, most of the backstage stage barrier has collapsed and is utilizing this holographic reintegration along with your effects of your Mandela effect to create weird, you would say, changes in your reality. In this, when you see building volumes change unexpectedly, rock face volumes change unexpectedly, like say you have a mountain and it seems like it's suddenly eroded. It actually had many, many centuries ago, but that, as you would say, time lapse went into effect with holographic trickery. In this, we are saying pay close attention to these things because they are not illusions. They are a very old system of doing things that is now becoming obsolete in the new energies. This is something that humans have already seen out of the corners of their eyes in their homes, in their places of business, where buildings seem out of place, layouts change, streets change, streets disappear, streets reappear. These are not just the effects of the Mandela effect. These are the system you would call the matrix breaking down. Granted, the Agarthans are not totally and fully responsible for this. However, they conjoined with this long ago to keep themselves from annihilation. This is something humans are witnessing currently. This is a maze of holograms, a maze of mental trickery breaking down on two sides, one of good intentions, one of ill intentions. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. You know, Chris and I would swear that we experienced just exactly what you're saying in Lincoln, Nebraska. We were there and we had gone downtown and done some things, and then we had not been there for almost 2 weeks and went downtown again, and we just both of us felt. And that's where Chris is from, not me. But I had been there just 2 weeks earlier and came back, and then we're both like, something has changed. It almost felt like there were new buildings or structures around that weren't there before. There were parts of the downtown area that seemed so much cleaner, I guess, even as well. And I remember that, that we both remember that experience because it wasn't something that we were so sure of. That's probably going to be, that's probably going to be how other people feel. It's like one of those things where you're like, I feel that this is now different, but there's going to not be the 100% confidence level to say that, you know what I mean, that I know it's changed, but you're going to just feel like this is weird. This is different. So I'm thinking that's how, if that's the experience that people are going to have. I don't think we've seen any, like here in Thumb Butte, I don't think we haven't noticed any big earth changes, but it will be curious to see if people start posting or people start showing maybe topographies that were one way and now looking the other. I would think that that's going to somehow be seen by people who are going to be producing pictures or whatever, I hope.
Yes, in this, where you said Lincoln, Nebraska, there are several things happening here. The Mandela effect, holographic trickery, and also restructuring on that of alien technology to refit and rebuild in a certain, you would say, imagery. This will also continue to happen. There are alien races on your world that wish to live on the surface with humans. Therefore, they use buildings that are outside the phase of your visual perception, you would say. These buildings are in plain sight, and they can walk amongst humanity. They live within these buildings and they work within these buildings. This structure has been set up since your biblical period. Lots of races actually do this very practice. In this, they are getting sick of having to wait for any form of official disclosure. So therefore, they're taking it upon themselves to walk amongst your kind and observe your kind from invisible structures. However, they know the energy in which this planet exists in currently cannot hide their structures any longer, so they are integrating them into human structures. This is also part of the process in which you are seeing. They are slowly integrating it with perception fields so that humans do not think that they are crazy when something changes. They will just assume that human construction workers did repairs and construction projects. This is part of the slow integration of disclosure. However, some of these races are quite impatient. So therefore, they are doing this at a much faster pace, and people are noticing.
That makes sense. So I know we've had a pretty long conversation here, and if I heard you correctly, I just want to restate this because a lot of people are concerned about it. That instead of thinking of big dramatic earth changes, earthquakes, bad weather, I mean, my understanding is still that people are still here for an experience. And if, a group of people needed to experience a certain one, um, and it related to a particular earth event, earthquake or mudslide or something that sometimes, the nature code is there to provide some of these learning experiences for people, and it's meant to be. But in general, the large dramatic things that everyone's worried about, that really that's not what's going to be happening, but you're going to start to subtly notice changes and different things going on, and that's really what it's going to be about.
Yes, that is exactly the point. All the aforementioned that we have mentioned is part of this process. Yes, the nature code also teaches lessons in certain effects, different races with different methodologies as well in your ET galactic community do the same. But as for cataclysmic war type changes or a post apocalyptic Mad Max type world, there is no longer any such thing available in the timeline.
That's that's wonderful to hear. And so we hope everyone can really take this in and again start working with nature and really start co-creating with it and let your heart lead your way. So we're going to close this out, and we always like to give the floor to any last words or messages or anything you would like to pass on.
Yes, in this, the slow integration of disclosure that humanity scoffs at currently is a necessary, not so evil, you would say. However, the timetable has been stepped up by many races of equal impatience to humanity. We are not saying a full and complete disclosure as humans would want this to be. We are saying timetables energetically as well as physically have been stepped up because of changes in plans, changes in leadership. Just know that the one you think of as God is gone. Source is what there is. This is what I came in to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ray, it's really been a pleasure talking with you. It really has today. And I've actually learned a whole lot. So, again, thank you very much. So, Chris, as you're coming out of this, any last words that you wish to say?
No, I think Ray pretty much covered it there. That was an interesting update of information there. So I think we can close the show out today. Thank you, everybody, for watching this installment of A Talk with the Elementals. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.